Hi, today's Thursday. My name's William, and today we're going to talk about, we're going to read or do a study on Mark 10, verses 46 through 52. And it's about a gentleman named Bartimaeus. Bartimaeus. So I'm going to read out of the new NIV. So then they came to Jericho as Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving the city. A blind man, Bartimaeus, which means son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet, but he shouted all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." So they called to the blind man, "Cheer up, on your feet, he's calling you." Throwing his cloak aside, he jumped to his feet and came to Jesus. "What do you want from me? What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asked him. The blind man said, "Rabbi, I want to see." "Go," Jesus said, "your faith has healed you." Immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus along the way. This is an often overlooked story in the Bible. I heard a teaching a while back, and it sparked my curiosity about its significance. So we look at a portion of the Bible once more. A bit of background. It's First Mark. Is the writing in this is very detailed. I don't know if you captured that or read that or it's super detailed. And the thing about it is that it's detailed, but the encounter, I would say less than 2 minutes. That's Hope right there. Matter of fact, she's listening. So, but the detail in the encounter is like crazy. It's like, wow, so much detail in this brief little encounter. We see Jesus. He's traveling along his way from his destiny. He's only about a week away from the Passion on the cross. He is in Jericho on his way to Jerusalem. He's traveling with a large crowd. Obviously, that's usually what happens when he's traveling. And there's this beggar, Bartimaeus. I find that it's again interesting that his name is significant. That in this particular miracle that Jesus does, this gentleman is given a name. We've seen so many other miracles up to this point, and hardly any of them are given a name. The gentleman with the legion of demons, no name. And that's a significant miracle there. But this man has a name, so it kind of leads me to think that maybe this guy had a family, significant, But still, he was blind, and but the beggars are supposed to be on the outskirts of the city. That's the tradition they had back then. They weren't allowed in the city to beg. So he has to wait. Bartimaeus has to wait until Jesus comes out of the city. And this is his life. He wakes up in the morning, goes to the gate, begs. At the end of the day, he goes home. That's his life. But this one day, he hears, obviously, because he can't see, he's blind, that Jesus is coming. And he's heard so many things about him, but he hasn't seen anything, obviously, because he's blind, right? He's heard of the miracles, and so this encounter, he begins as he just hears rumors that he's coming. So he shouts, "Jesus, son of David!" And the crowd around him telling him, "Be quiet, be quiet. Let him be, let him be. You're just a beggar. Just be quiet." But it captured Jesus' attention. It captured his attention. He's like, "Who's calling me?" And this person who's calling me knows who I am. And how does he know? Not only who I am, but he knows son of David. He knows my position, right? And it was just a few chapters earlier that Peter acknowledged, and Peter had been with Jesus this whole time. But here we come across Bartimaeus, and Bartimaeus hasn't been with Jesus, obviously. because he's a beggar, and he knows who he is. He acknowledges Christ as the Son of God, right? So it's super just like it amazes me that this gentleman, you know, cries out to Christ and says, "Help me." That's all he wants. He just wants, he's just wants one thing from him. Now, the thing that he wants, he knows that he could give it to him, right? He acknowledges his authority in the life that he's leading, that Jesus is walking, right? So, and so at one point in the verse we see, or one point it says, so Jesus stopped, and because he heard somebody calling him. And can you imagine Jesus walking with a large crowd? And to me, a large crowd is 50 people, 60 people. One of the largest crowds that we had when we had the miracle of the bread and the fish, it was like 5,000, and that was only the men. So imagine the crowd walking with Jesus. So he stops, right, and he says, call him. So he calls Jesus Christ him, have him come. So there's two things that I see there that are significant. One, that Jesus heard him calling in this large, huge crowd. And two, that he calls this blind man to come to him. He calls a blind guy, come here. And so Bartimaeus leaves everything. And they mentioned, and again, like I said, this was very detailed. They mentioned his cloak. And back then, your cloak was everything. I mean, you think about Joseph and the coat of many colors, that was everything. So he left that behind and he went to Jesus. How he found him, I have no idea. Then he gets to him and he says, Jesus asked him, what do you want from me? And he says, Rabbi. He calls him Rabbi. And Rabbi is a very strong word in the sense that it's acknowledging again who he is. And again, this man has not been following Jesus. He hasn't been with him at any time. I mean, he's in Jericho. He's been sitting at the gate this whole time. And so he calls him, Rabbi, which means master. In the Hebrew is master. And so it's just like, he goes to him and he says, what do you want? Jesus asks him, what do you want? He goes, I want to see. He goes, your faith has healed you. Now, Bartimaeus could have easily gone back to where he was, picked up his stuff and went home and told everybody I could see again. But no, he continued to walk with Jesus, which, if you think about it, he left everything behind. His former life, him sitting at the gates begging, and he went with Jesus, right? And that's what I think God or the Christ is asking us to do. He says, forget everything behind. Leave that there and move forward with me. And it's just, we see that it's just the amount of faith that this blind man had is incredible. And to move to Christ and continue to move with him afterwards, after his miracle. Again, today's Thursday. My name is William. Have a wonderful day. Be blessed.